Hey everybody out there, it's Pastor John with your Midweek Reflection. This week we're finishing up our series, Small Packages, where we've looked at some of the shortest books of the Bible. And sometimes these are, sometimes they talk about flyover country, in the United States from I don't know, New York to Los Angeles or something. Sometimes these little books of the Bible are flyover books, kind of. We kind of skip over them and, the meat of Galatians or Romans or the Gospels or whatever, Isaiah, even as a prophet, we skip right over them and we don't really read them. So I hope that through the series you've gained a little bit of, gleaned a little bit of understanding and some great spiritual value that's packed into some of these books. But this week we're finishing up with Jude, which is the second to last book of the Bible, which is dwarfed in knowledge and in length by the Book of Revelation, of course, which is the last book. But Jude claims to be written by a servant of Jesus and a brother of James, which is really interesting because James, the James we assume is being referred to, is the brother of Jesus. And so Jude would be a brother of Jesus, but he doesn't identify himself in that way. Maybe it's because Jesus has been gone for 30 years and people really know James as a leader in the church. But anyway, decides to introduce himself as a servant of Jesus, brother of James. And Jude is doing a couple of things. Doing a couple of things in this letter. And the first is trying to open the church's eyes to a great threat that is facing them. And I wonder if maybe we can identify with some of that. I feel like there's a lot of feelings of being threatened that are going on in people in our culture these days. And so the first thing I want you to reflect on is, can you think of a circumstance where you feel threatened? Maybe that comes out in fear, anger, anxiety, whatever the case may be, but you feel threatened by that. What is that thing that brings up those feelings of being threatened? And for Jude, he's specifically talking about some threats to the church. And again, there's a little overlap with last week with 2nd and 3rd John, but Jude is concerned about counterfeit gospels, teachers who are coming in and teaching a false or counterfeit gospel. And so another question I'd ask you is what is that today? For Jude, it's pretty much total moral licentiousness as a part of the gospel. For John last week, we saw that it was this idea that Jesus wasn't really human, or God didn't really become human, which is a proto-Gnosticism, if you want to be technical. But what is that counterfeit gospel today? What are some counterfeit gospels that we hear today? Because we're exposed to all kinds of Christian teaching, right? You go on the internet, you go on TV, you go wherever, all kinds of Christian teaching that may not be really the gospel. So what are the most pressing concerns that you have when it comes to counterfeit gospels that are going around? And why does that matter? Why does it matter what we believe at all? So, and then lastly, Jude is instructing us on how do we contend for the faith. How do we contend for the faith in the midst of these dangers, in the midst of these counterfeit gospels? How do we live? And so, if you go back to that threat that you thought about at the beginning, how are you currently responding to that? How are you currently facing that reality or considering facing that reality? And Jude's going to give us some insight into how we do that, how we live in the reality of threat, danger, counterfeit gospels as Christians. So I'm kind of excited about this sermon. It's a little different sermon than I've preached, not necessarily in form, but in content and in tone. So, because Jude is a very different book in those regards. So I hope you'll be there on Sunday. As always, I look forward to living the gospel life together with you worshiping with you as we live the gospel life together. That's it. And until then, may God bless you.